Alright everybody, welcome back to Conqueror and Commander. Today we're going to be talking about my Captain Sisay deck. For the complete deck list, go to puremtgo.com and check out my article series Conqueror and Commander. Hopefully I will actually have a link to the deck list up in the video description soon. As a matter of fact, the deck list is going to look very similar to this. It's going to look exactly like this. And it's going to have all the cards printed out for you nice and neat, and you can click on each of them if you want to purchase them from MTGO traders. The Sisay deck came about because of a subscriber request way back in April. And I just got a request from Michael Bryan, do a new deck with Captain Sisay. And at the time, I knew I was going to be going through each of the pre-con decks, so I was like, well, I just did a Recce deck, you can take a look at that. But you know, Sisay is one of those decks that has kind of gotten me curious, and I decided to put it together. The issue with Sisay is that since she's a tutor commander, she can be really brutal sometimes. And, you know, Sisay decks come really in like two varieties. There's the all-legendary creature variety, which is brutal enough. And then there's the only tutor up for like 3 or 4, you know, maybe 10 or 15 different legends in your deck that you need for very specific occasions, and other than that, just play like a green-white good stuff deck. I wanted to keep it more legendary specifically because there's a bunch of cards that I haven't really played with in the past that I wanted to get to play with this time. And it's not so mean that I'm like playing Kamal with the white Krovax, so that you can like kill off everybody's lands and stuff like that, because I've seen that happen to people too. I wanted to avoid that, but I still wanted to play with cards like Avacyn, because I've never actually played with Avacyn before. Here she is. And I figured, you know what? I want it to be fun, and I want it to be powerful, and so that's kind of how I came up here. So, of course, you know, Sisay tutors up any legendary card that you have, which includes artifacts as well as lands. So if you need to fix your land or something like that early on, you can always, you know, look for Flagstones of Trocaire here to get white mana, or Gaia's Cradle is going to help you out as well with if you have a creature out or two or more. So let's just take a look at what we've got in terms of removal slash taking things away. Path to Exile is good. The Yulvenwald Tracker was in the deck when my initial version had a lot more big dudes in it, but I think that it's good enough as it is right now as repeatable creature removal to stay in the deck. Swords of Plowshares, Austere Command, Duplicate, Myojin of Cleansing Fire. The Myojin, I really wanted like a tutorable Wrath, and that's exactly what this guy is. So ideally, you know, you never have to tutor him up, but there were plenty of times when I needed him. Arashi takes care of flyers. Fracturing Gust is a card that I haven't played with very much, and because I only had a couple of enchantments and artifacts in this deck, I decided to give it a go. I had varying success with it, so it's up to you whether you want to keep that. Wrath of God, Return to Dust, Glissa Sunseeker, a legendary creature that can blow up artifacts. Oblivion Stone, just to wipe the board. Beast Within, Harmonic Sliver, Lieutenant Kurtar. If there's somebody out there with a big beast and you don't want him to attack you, you tutor up Kurtar. Corindor, Mangira of Corindor obviously can remove a problem permanent. Viridian Zealot and Scavenging Ooze. Now you'll notice that I'm not playing straight legendary creatures. I do have Scavenging Ooze and Viridian Zealot. I just felt it was good to have that kind of utility in the deck. And you'll see more when I get farther along what's going on. In terms of ramp, there isn't a ton of ramp. There's Soul Ring, Mirari's Wake, Explosive Vegetation, Skyship Claim, Garrick, who's really good with like Gaia's Cradle, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Azusa. This deck is capable of drawing a decent amount of cards, so it's nice to have Azusa out so that you can dump all the lands out of your hand, and then Farseek. Card draw. Soul of the Harvest is good because not all your creatures are legendary, but if you have Soul of the Harvest out at the same time you have Recce out, and you play a legendary creature, that's 2 cards for playing 1 creature. Kozilek is in the deck mainly to shuffle my library back in my graveyard. I never actually cast Kozilek in this deck, so like I said, mainly graveyard retrieval, but you can also use them to draw 4 cards. Harmonize, Momentous Fall, Sword of Fire and Ice is good because of the protection abilities as well. Hunter's Insight, I love this card. This card just does so much for me, and it does well. Like I said, Reki, Sylvan Library, I don't have a ton of life gain in this deck, so most of the time this isn't a straight card draw enchantment for me. But occasionally you do get to the point where you want to draw some extra cards, and Sylvan can be useful for that. In terms of recursion, we've got Genesis, Yomiji, who, I never tutored for him, and I never drew him, but he always seemed like he'd be pretty cool, even, considering he costs 7 mana. Sun Titan, which is just an awesome card in general. Sword of Light and Shadow, and Loyal Retainers. Loyal Retainers works really well with Sun Titan because you can sacrifice the Retainers and then get them back with the Sun Titan. So it's a decent amount of recursion in this deck. Tutors, there's 3 tutors in the deck. There's Survival. Usually what I would do is I would Survival for Genesis first, or if it looked like people were going to remove graveyards, get Kozilek. Time of Need, which is great in case Sisay gets tucked, and for picking up a specific legendary creature. And then Stoneforge Mystic, who really only has 3 targets, the 2 swords plus Lightning Greaves here. Now, these are kind of like my defensive guys. And we'll see Commander Isha, Runetail. Almost the majority of the time, Runetail was, if there was nothing else going on, Runetail was the first card I tutored for. It's just nice to be able to protect your creatures. Safi protects creatures. Gadok, I did not tutor for Teague as much as I probably should have. Teague's one of those cards where, like, you feel a little bad playing it, but, people did manage to blow him up when I had him out there. So, but he's definitely worth having, especially, in the mid-game when you're chugging along pretty good and you know that you're, like, a turn away from doing good stuff. Might as well put Teague out there just to stop people from doing stuff. Just keep in mind, though, that, like, you can't play a Chroma's Memorial when Teague is out there. Because I forgot about that once or twice myself. Michiko Kanda, another defensive guy. Dosen. Dauntless Escort, again, works well with Sun Titan. 8.5 Tails and Sigarda. I never... these were the guys that I generally tutored up first, but I never tutored up Sigarda. It's interesting. I'm thinking about that. These are my game enders, really. These are the oh crap cards that people look at and they go, oh crap. So there's the Chroma's Memorial, obviously. Avacyn. Kamal. And Rofellos. Rofellos can make a ton of mana. Kamal is just good with a ton of mana. Avacyn is just good, period, and so is Memorial. Memorial is nice because of the haste ability. Finally, we have the random pile. Willow Satyr, I liked the ability to steal opponents' legendary creatures, as well as maybe steal my guy back if necessary. Linvala is good, and Linvala could probably be a defensive creature because you're turning off your opponent's activated abilities. So she's nice to have around as well. And then Elspeth is just good for beating and creating tokens for Gaia's Cradle and then Lightning Greaves. So that's the majority of the deck. The mana base has 38 lands. I am playing with Ancient Tomb because it's nice. Winding Canyons, I don't think I ever really used its ability. Emeria, you do have... There's a little bit of a tension because a lot of times what I like to do is tutor up forests first, specifically for the ability that Rofellos has. So I never got Emeria online with this deck, but it's certainly possible if you will try. Flagstones is a tutorable land. Let's see. Guy's Cradle, another tutorable land. High Market is not tutorable, but that's basically your lone sack outlet. Core Haven is another defensive card that's tutorable. And then we've got Tectonic Edge, Temple of the False God. Let's see. Mana Crypt. Yavimaya Hollow is another defensive card you can tutor up as well. So that's the deck. Let's take a look at the stats real quick. It's a 3.66 average cost, which is a little high. I mean, it's a decent looking curve, but it's still kind of a high CMC deck. It's evenly split between, green and white. The way the deck plays is it doesn't do much in the early turns. It sort of like sits back and tutors up defensive stuff. And then later on, when you get enough mana and maybe a couple of creatures out there, you can tutor up Kamal or Akroma's Memorial and just start beating down. You have a decent amount of recursion so that you can get stuff out of your graveyard. You have a couple of tutors aside from just Sisay. And there's a decent amount of draw as well. There's plenty of removal in the deck. You can almost always get rid of stuff if necessary. So it's not the fastest deck in the world, but if you leave it alone for long enough, it'll be tough to deal with. Now, there was a bunch of legendary creatures that I wanted to put in the deck, but that I couldn't. And let's just take a look at some of the stuff here. Akroma I really wanted to put in the deck, but what happened was Akroma lost out to the White Myojin and Avacyn, honestly. I really wanted to play with Avacyn, and I really needed the tutorable Wrath, so Akroma, because they all cost the same mana cost and they're all pretty high, didn't make the cut. Some of these other guys, Ayumi, just too restrictive. Champion's Helm was an initial version of the deck. It did nothing. It was crap. Let's see what we got here. There's the White Crovax. I just didn't want to be that guy. Day of Destiny just didn't do enough. Elish Norn was actually in the deck for a little while too, but I just didn't need her, honestly. And she cost a lot of mana. What else are we looking at here? There's Kamal. He's obviously in the deck. I guess you could have thought about Karn. Karn just didn't do enough, I think. Kitsune Healer, I was like, oh, this is a goofy, cool card, prevent all damage to your legendary dude, but I just didn't want to have to hold him back on a defense, and he just didn't do enough for the deck, so I got rid of him. There's the Kodamas, Krond, Magenta. Magenta, I thought about putting in, but the tap ability and the discarding was just too much for me to handle. Masumaro and Multani and Molimo were all in the deck at one point, but they were just big beaters, and they didn't do enough. If there was one of them that I would pick to keep in the deck, it would probably be Molimo, but he just didn't do enough by himself either. Yeah, and Multani, like, without some sort of, trample, and I know you can tutor up trample. And I think those were mainly the cards I considered in here. Rhea I considered as well. She just cost too much for what she did. And that's mainly it. I didn't want Ulamog in the deck. Vertaloth was in the deck. I didn't need him. Cost a lot. Vorinclex, just mean. I didn't want to play with him. Yiva could have been in the deck. I don't know. I mean, she's cheap enough. What I was really looking for were legends that were like super cheap. Like the 3-cast and 4-cast legendary creatures. Yossi, I just didn't need him. So that's the deck. It's a fun deck. It's a little powerful. Like, again, if people leave you alone, like the first couple turns, all of a sudden you're a powerhouse, and they're like, what the hell is going on? But it has the ability to bounce back if people do mess with you. The one issue it does have is kind of a lack of life gain. Occasionally you do need life gain, especially if you get like Ancient Tomb out with Mana Crypt or something like that. Or you start digging with your Sylvan Library. Life gain would be nice. It's got Scavenging Ooze. It's got Momentous Fall. And if necessary, you can path to or sword your own dude, I guess. And it's also got Fraction Gust. I guess it does have a decent amount of life gain. I just never drew it. Alright, so anyways, that's the deck. Hope you guys enjoy it. It was pretty fun. Alright, thanks.